So Jane, are we gonna have fun today or what? Because we didn't talk, but somehow we showed up today with the same shirt. Like it's crazy. What's going on, man?
My sleeves are a little longer, but it's disappearing a little.
Yeah, I've got the short sleeve version. You have the long sleeve version, but
long sleeve silk version. But yes, we're fully on the same wavelength today.
I think yours is a little higher end than mine. Mine is just like, I have anchors in one of my company logos, and I'm just like, I'm an anchor guy. I like the whole symbolism of anchors. So like this shirt's probably 6 months away to a year away from being retired. I'm gonna have to find another one, but I'm so glad I wore it today because Jane and John are rocking the navy blue with white pattern. Like it doesn't get better than this, right? So
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. This is lovely. This is awesome. This is adding joy.
Yeah, to it is. Day. I'm so happy. It looks like we could we could go we're very nautical looking. We could go like sailing or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. We belong on some lifestyle magazine, which is
100%.
Hopefully, it's on brand too.
Well, after today, I think that's going to happen, right? So watch closely. This will be probably the first and last and only time that I'm matching someone that I'm interviewing. So I'm so glad it's you, Jane. So tell me something cool. Like what's going on in your life that's interesting and new and that's like gives you a good vibe. What have you been up to lately?
What I've been up to lately, I've been in fundraising, which is a journey in itself, and I got to meet really lots of amazing people and and all over kind of geography, but all mostly on Zooms. I did meet some people in office in Toronto. We had our mask on, we had the whole protocol, but it was so nice to meet people in person as well.
Cool.
But I think ultimately I was just really happy to kind of show the work that we've done over the last few years. And it's great to be recognized. And I think that's, there's lots of good things happening.
That's pretty incredible. So let's, before we get into the shop side of things, like, the business side of things, let's get to know Jane a little bit. So I watched an interview or a YouTube video of you like 11 months ago. You looked a little different than you do right now. You're a new mom, aren't you?
I am a new mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. So tell us about the baby. What's the baby up to right now?
The baby is standing up and just like all kinds of milestones, a milestone a week. He's 10 months. So 11 months ago, I was like roly-poly and just like
enjoying life. You were glowing. You looked great.
I was glowing.
You looked great. Yeah.
But it was awesome. It's really, I think, part of the blessing of COVID. It really opened us up to a new way of working, right? Like, and it started from my home too. So my husband and I were able to really like not miss anything while still doing a lot of stuff, accomplishing things, professionally as well. And he took a long pat leave, so like 4 or 5 months, which is really amazing to spend with the baby. And then even though I'm running a startup, which is I'm a work mom, I'm a business mom, and be able to do that and still breastfeed your child, like that's
awesome. Yeah,
that's awesome. I didn't imagine that for myself, let's say like 3 years ago. So
that's incredible. That is a real blessing when you say, like, when you put it that way. Startup company, and you don't have to be away. You don't have to delegate that task to someone else. You can embrace all of it together, and it's possible. And you're making it work.
I think that's good. But also, like, you have to be realistic. So I do have help, right? Like, so that my husband is incredibly supportive, and also my team is just like amazing. Like, if we're launching a rocket, these are like astronauts that I've handpicked. Like it's and it really made you really think about who needs to be on this rocket, because every pound counts, and especially with I have family obligations too. So I think all that just kind of enhances you as a person, and you just become more appreciative and better overall, I think.
For sure. Well, and we talked before we went live, or before we hit the record, we talked about the importance of the team, and we've talked about marketing in particular. Always listen to your marketing people. They're your brand ambassadors. And there's a bit of a story behind your name. So it's Jane Wang, but now you threw Jane J in there. Give us a story behind that. What was happening there? Were you getting, was it like a mistaken identity thing? Is there?
Yeah, a little bit of that, but I mean, also it's also a little bit back to my roots. So my family, I'm a first generation immigrant. So I moved to Canada when I was 11. Yeah. So my Chinese name is Jiaying. Okay. So that's my middle name. It's always been my middle name. But I remember when we first landed in Edmonton, like people are like, "Oh, you mean Jane?" You just couldn't pronounce it properly. So I remember my school record was just Jane. And then my family was like, it's not on her passport. What do we do? So we just basically just doubled it. So my name is Jane Jang, and my family friends, they call me that JJ or Jane Jang. But recently for work, we're quoted for articles and things like that. And especially as we do the fundraising, people do diligence, and it's awesome. But then when they look at Jane Wang, there's like a wedding dress designer called Jane Wang. Right. There's a machine learning, amazing neuroscientist. And some of the work that we do definitely has AI in it, definitely has machine learning in it too. So people are like, "Oh yeah, are you doing that? Are you a PhD?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't want to take credit for that. Like she's amazing, but that's like Jane X Wang. So I'm Jane J Wang. So I'm JJ. Yeah.
Cool. I love, well, you're rebranding JJ and JJ. So I'm helping you with that effort too. Right. So
I'm on this twinning thing, you and I with the shirts and the I love it.
That's cool. And I like the backstory there too, around like the whole origins of it and everything. Thanks for sharing that. And that, that's not uncommon. A lot of people get renamed. My father-in-law, quick story, his name is Vito, but all through school, and they immigrated from Italy, and they called him Victor. They tried to anglicize his name. And then, one day in grade 5, he just kind of reclaimed, he's like, "No, I'm Vito. I'm not Victor." So there's always an interesting story there. That's why I kind of, go down those rabbit holes sometimes, because something interesting can come out. Let's talk a little bit more about your origin story. So like, how did you get into this insurance game? Would you call yourself an insurance person? Because you've got an interesting background. Did you ever think you'd be kind of dabbling in this wonderful, weird, wacky world of insurance? Or, tell us how you got into it.
Yeah, I got into it, kind of slipped into it, got pulled into this industry. My career path was kind of based on a blend of two worlds. So it was technology and data. And data was critical in advancing healthy living and quality of life and longevity. So my formal education, I'm a data and health sciences person. So I have a Bachelor of Science in biochemistry from McGill. And then I have an MBA from Ivy School of Business at Western. And then I did some executive training at Stanford University. So like, that's kind of the blend of the educational side. But prior to starting my journey as a tech entrepreneur, I led teams for pharmaceutical companies in global clinical trials. So I was developing software technologies and programs to maximize patient outcomes on longevity. So from insurance, it was kind of part of, it's on the other side. It's almost something administrative that we have, but I didn't really know about this industry. But I know that there are people that are similar to me as a mortality risk specialist, right? There are actuaries on the insurance side. So so I think that there was a natural track of the two together. Ironically, I guess, in this journey of trying to achieve longevity for, patients and for pharma clients, my own mother got sick, and she was 52 at the time, and then she passed away. And then I felt insurance in a very different way.
Wow.
And we definitely didn't buy enough life insurance. So she didn't my dad definitely went through grief, and at the same time, had to remortgage the house and had to deal with that. And I think I really saw a very different side of some of the financial needs as a family. And I think that's also a little bit of the immigrant family. I think financial education was something that was kind of missing in this whole piece. So it really kind of made me realize that, technology, like patient engagement, it really wasn't accessible to people that I loved. and people that were in my own backyard and that I really cared about.
Mm-hmm.
So I started kind of exploring in the startup land. I started my first company, which was really in the corporate wellness space. It was a company called My Health Sphere. And that was the first time where I started getting pulled into insurance, because health insurance companies, I got to work with Sun Life on their group benefits side, on their innovation journey. I remember doing the Sun Life like Innovation Day, where we presented to all the executives across a different thing. So that was really exciting to see. And then the more we got into it, the more mortality risk and, new ways of underwriting and customer engagement. It just had all these really good business cases behind it for the full insurance industry. So we started working with carriers that, so for example, with Sun, we went into the individual life unit. So it's not just a group benefits thing. And then with some of the carriers that we work in the US, they also have auto and home insurance. Actually, that happens in Canada too. So we're doing the same thing, for example, with TD. So like all these different use cases made sense, because in the end, you're engaging with the end user. Mm-hmm. And anything that was kind of gamification, knowledge, micro learning, all these relevant things and technologies that we were building to deliver them for patients.
Right.
It was exactly what insurance needed. And insurance was probably 10 or 20 years behind everything else. So.
Yeah. And that's your last statement there. That's why insurance is so primed for innovation, because of how far behind we are as an industry. I love that people like you have been attracted to the industry to help advance innovation and move it forward. And the fact that you have a family story like you just shared, that's a real sense of purpose that'll give anybody drive. And I shared this with you too in a previous conversation we had. People in the life and health space seem to have that in common, some sort of connection or personal story that got them to I guess take more of a keen interest or awareness into a space where it's something everybody needs, but no one wants to buy and no one wants to talk about buying it. And sometimes, it takes a personal impact story to really drive that home. So, I'm sure part of your mission, your personal mission is to help other people as well. And I think it's a great segue into Optimity. So let's talk a little bit about the company. I don't think we talked about the origins of the name. Maybe we could start there. Like, how did you come up with the name Optimity? And then tell us a little bit about the company itself and how it came to be.
Yeah, I guess in true data scientist fashion, we crowdsourced the name. We let people vote on a number of names that really meant what living a good life meant, what the most best version of themselves meant, what would fun look like? What would it look like if you were supported physically, mentally, financially, someone was teaching you stuff and it was good and it wasn't scary, right? Like it wasn't like I think there's some companies that was like dead happy and like this stuff like this, like it wasn't really going around the morbid side of it. And Optimity won by popular vote, and it's a dictionary name. It means the state of being best. So it's like optimal or optimize. And I think people don't really use this dictionary word a lot because we're not really in optimity, right? Like a lot of us think about our lives as in like you kind of get better, and then you crest and then you decline, right? Like the optimity is
like an arc.
It's an arc. But we shouldn't think about that as a kind of a longevity mortality risk person. We should really think about our life as a, what would we look like if we're adding not just years to our life, but life to our years. Right. And and improved quality of life during the time that we have. And the time that we have is no longer just until 65, right? We have 80 years, 90 years to live. We should really plan for 100, to be honest. So, so that's what we do at Optimity. We try to give you a great life and give you little nudges and make it really fun and rewarding for you to do so and build a community of people that are the same.
That's really cool. And so you talked a little bit about, when I unpack some of those things you said there, you talked a little bit about gamification, making it fun and rewarding. And I did do some poking around before we sat down. you guys talk about 5 pillars. I don't know if you still talk about 5 pillars or not, but can you explain a little bit more about, so how do you use gamification and rewards to make that, activity and lifestyle and all that fun? And then how does that connect to, the problem that you're solving?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the idea of gamification is quite simple. So it's using game mechanics such as playful achievements or leaderboards or incentives to encourage the user to achieve a certain behavior or attain a certain milestone, right? So however, by just focusing on a certain behavior, what we do at Optimity is that we're using sophisticated algorithms and AI to holistically nurture individuals' health goals. So that's where the 5 pillars come in, because it has physical health, it has nutrition, it has mental health, it has financial wellness, and it also has a social connection to it, which is encourage social connectedness and the sense of camaraderie, which altogether I think is coupled with incentives and rewards, it really provides like relevant and timely like nudges and carrots, if you will, in turn that encourages anybody to continue on their healthy goals, because it's often like, it's not like you exercise now, you see the immediate results, you only see it maybe days later. And then you also have to every day put in the work to get it done. So gamification helps break that down into little like breadcrumbs of awesomeness so that you can like get there.
I like that, breadcrumbs of awesomeness. I don't know if you coined that phrase, but if you did, I was here to witness it, and we were matching when it happened. So that's really cool. Do I have to download an app or wear something? Is it attached to a wearable, or what if I'm not into wearables? How do I get the inputs in there? How does that all work?
Okay. That's a really good question. So you can access Optimity for free as a consumer. Okay. There's a freemium version. So you can connect whatever wearable you have. And it doesn't have to be an Apple Watch or Fitbit or Garmin or Samsung. We do all 4, but it could just be your phone. The phone is the most like highest percentage wearable. Put it in your pocket, right? Walk around, we'll track your steps. That's great. And then we also give you these learn and earn quizzes. It helps you learn about, hey, what's the difference between sea salt and table salt? Which one's healthier? And it asks you some really fun, like poking questions. And through that type of game, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. And then you get better, because the more that you learn about yourself. And then that learning process also helps you incorporate choices into the work that you do. So Optimity itself is a software app with the algorithm behind it, similar to how Netflix is a app with a lot of content behind it. So it's the same, similar type of things, and it's free. And then there's also a premium version that is either employer sponsored or life insurance company is sponsored, and they have a lot more content in it. They have modules, for example, for diabetes management or for heart disease prevention. It has a health score that's attached to it, like a health grade, which also gives you a numerical number about how you're getting better. And we are playing around with that to give you quantitative feedback, just like your credit score, like give you quantitative feedback on how you're doing on a daily basis. And 2 is really amazing because steps is actually it's now irrefutable scientifically. It's a great predictor of mortality. So we use that in insurance terms for underwriting.
Is it still, by the way, 10,000 or is it like 20,000 now? How many steps should I be doing a day?
Yeah, it's never really 10,000. The number is probably closer to 6,000 to 7,000, and it's a little relative. So if you look at the science, if you look at the white papers that were published with like Munich Re or with SCORE on the biological age model, or on using steps to correlate with mortality, you can see that there's a dramatic improvement of mortality if you go from like 2,000 steps to 3,000 steps to 5,000 steps. 6, 7, once you get to 6 and 7, it's starting to flatten out, and then it kind of stays pretty similar. going forward. So it's 10 is not really the right number. It's just a round number to do, but 10 is not a bad number either. The right is anywhere between 6,000 and 7,000 usually will make a pretty big difference.
So if I'm not hitting 10, I shouldn't go to bed feeling terrible then.
No. Okay. You should strive for 6,000 to 7,000. And then you should also, I think moving every day is important. So we don't just look at your absolute step count. We also look at variance. So it would be better for you to every day take 7,000 steps than to have a crazy day where you have 25,000 steps and then next day where you have 1,000 steps. And then even though on average, maybe over 7 days, it's pretty similar, it's not really the same.
That resonates with me. When I look at my step count, I'm all over the place. And it's like, depending on if I have a lot of these calls, it's like a 3,000 step day. And then when I'm at the office and I'm running around doing things, and ironically, a lot of times on the weekend is when my step count goes through the roof. So it's that consistency. And I can see how that, building awareness will, build traction and be relevant for users. Now, this is all app based? You mentioned it's the user downloads an app for this to work. You talked about the premium app. So is that the connection to insurance, or is there another connection? Because you talked about employer sponsored and insurance sponsored. But if I'm just on the free app, does it do anything else that mingles with insurance in the free app? Are you like making recommendations or doing anything like that? Or do I have to be on the premium version?
No. So in the free one, similar to Spotify freemium app, like when you're on the free version, you can upgrade into the premium. We are about to launch our premium version for retail purchase, but so far it's only for like kind of the group purchase, the enterprise purchase. But you get a code from your employer or you get a code from your insurance company, and then it basically gives you all the enhanced features on the same app. You don't have to download a new app. And then some of the insurance companies we work with, we also do white labeled versions of their under their brand. So it just depends on how they want to offer that service. Or we've even done ones where we provide it as an API. So our content as an API or as a component of an insurance company's app. And then they use that to do the content and the recommendation and engagement with the end policyholder.
Very cool. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about the stage that you guys are in. What kind of traction are you guys getting as far as bringing the whole product to market? Talk a little bit about that, users, etc.
Yeah, we are now 15 insurance customers, and but we also work with a lot of consumer brands. So these are like health and lifestyle brands because they come in and they offer rewards or discounts or special benefits for the people in the free app, actually. So it's pretty amazing. Both in the premium and also the free app, you get all these rewards and discounts and fun things, right? So like it's things that are either sponsored by our company or by another company. So we've given away things like a Peloton bike or electronics devices or like Samsung watches and stuff like that. So that's really cool. But then there's also these special promotions where people are like, Les Mills just did one, which for their workout class, you can get it at like a really good discount. There is like workout headbuds, you can get like 40-50% discount. So like all of it, it's about making it against the breadcrumbs of joy.
Yes.
You earn some gems so that you're like, oh my goodness, like this, there's something for me if I just like did a little bit and took those extra steps on the days where I'm feeling a little, sedentary.
Yeah, for sure. 15 carriers. That's bravo. Like, how long have you guys been at it for? When did you go to market?
2017.
Okay.
So it's been almost 5 years. And my previous company, I got to work with some health carriers as well. Yeah. So some of them have already known my co-founders and I and the work that we've done. So it was relatively easy, I think, when we first started. We're starting to have bigger rollouts now. So I think, many insurtech companies do pilots, right? So you do your POCs, you do your pilots. Yeah. We're in enterprise rollout with 7 of them right now. And I think it's only going to pick up from there because we bought a company called Carrot Rewards about 2 years ago.
You talked about that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because they have a pure consumer app. Because most of the times when you're in insurtech, I mean, you just do it for the carriers or you do it for the employers. And what I found was like, hey, it doesn't really quite satisfy my mission of making it available to people that I know and love, right? Like my dad, like he has an independent business. Mm-hmm. He's not, right? Like, he can buy.
It's not on a group benefits plan necessarily. Yeah, like a lot of entrepreneurs. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, it's not on the plan. So like, what we're going to do. So I'm like, how can they get access to it? And could I still give them the basic benefit, which is improved life with that? So I think Carrot Rewards was doing a really good job of it. They were able to do that. I think they needed some tweak for their business model because they only work with government pretty much. They had some brands, but it wasn't quite the same. So we took the last a year or so to really kind of right size the we love their science, we love their engagement, and we just try to figure out the business components that would make it smoothly run forever, like perpetually, like be an evergreen thing that's not really just dependent on government grants. So we were able to do that, which I'm very proud of my team for doing it. It definitely, like doing it during COVID was also another thing. So it helped us achieve our brand mission, which is be in the hands of every consumer that we, every person that we love and know. And then on the other side too, we see that users love it. And that's where the biggest growth is because, everybody, like if, you go and you talk about your step story, like I'm sure everybody on listening to you talk is like, me too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, for those of us who work, behind a computer, it's very common, right? A few things there. Like number one, I want to say this from personal experience and from all of the founders I talked to throughout the year, that selling to insurance is no easy feat. So you may have made it look easy, but to have 15 carriers behind this, even at various stages, so number one, kudos on that accomplishment. Number two, it's a great channel strategy to get that in the hands of more people. So to make it more accessible and as part of your mission to make it available to everybody, and to kind of democratize it in a sense, insurance is a great distribution channel and partner to get that initial traction. And then you can kind of go more on the B2C route. So I applaud you for being able to achieve what you've been able to achieve in the last 5 years. I think it's fantastic. So kudos to you and your team. Of course, none of it's done on your own. It's not just Gene. It's the powerhouse machine behind you, which you talk about your team quite a lot, and I noticed that. So more on the stage of the company, talk about as much as you're comfortable talking about, your journey on just funding the whole effort. Because there's lots of different paths people can take. You can bootstrap. We talk about government grants and tax credits, and we did a different interview on that recently, which will be released in the next few weeks. What was your journey like, and what stage of if you are fundraising, of that journey are you at right now?
Sure, I can share my journey, and hopefully it will be helpful for anyone out there that is interested in doing similar things or are within my community too, because founders are some of the most amazing people that I've met. I started this after my own personal journey, so I knew it was something that I wanted to do. I dabbled in starting this company kind of with my own money first. So I remember just writing my first like $50K check to get, some kind of the MVP built. And while I was doing that, some of the people that I got to work with in my previous company or that I, played sports with, that they heard a little bit about my story. And I just remember them saying, hey, like, I want to invest, right? Can I write you a $25K check? And that's how it first started. So I think we did $250,000 with just a lot of the people that I knew and trusted and knew the technologies and the work that I built for pharma companies. And they're like, hey, like she's going to go build something. So this is going to be great. Right. Did I know that I was going to be selling it to insurance companies? No, right? Like I at that point we were doing employers, but it was but then you kind of just talk to people, and then you go where the gravity takes you in terms of customers. People, people are more enthusiastic about it. They say, hey, you need to talk to so and so, and that's where kind of the chain reaction started happening. But it took a long time, I would say, especially for me. I think it was pretty difficult. First of all, as a female founder, I did get a lot of I remember getting a term sheet that was very you wouldn't take it. It wasn't very it didn't really make sense for what it was. People giving you $1 million for over half of your company at the very beginning. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? You're
caution on
but
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you say.
No, I was just gonna say that's a very tempting place to be in, especially if you've got a cash burn going on already and you've sunk money in. And a lot of people can fall into that trap. So yeah, let's unpack that more though. So, those are some cautions though people should watch for.
Yeah, I think that's one thing also I felt I'm always been a little bit cautious. I'm a risk person. I'm a data risk person. So sometimes I take a second to think about the person behind the numbers or the money or any of the glory. And I found that what we've done really well is we've took money from people that were really aligned with my mission. Yeah, with my mission, what we're trying to do, and how big we are biting into it. And I remember there were people at the beginning that said, hey, are you sure you want to sell to these gigantic elephant or whale companies because you could die in the process? And I said, hey, this is I have founder market fit here. This is where these people understand data. These people understand the long-term value of a customer at the end. And they also need to innovate really heavily. So there's some budgets behind this. Absolutely. So we definitely need to do that. And I took my whole founding group to Silicon Valley. So that's also with Optimity. So that was a difference too. For Optimity, we went through 500 startups in San Francisco. We were incubated in the Valley, and I've told my founder friends as well, and I've encouraged them to just go outside, right? The answer is not within the walls here. And in Toronto, it is the insurance capital of Canada, but go to other places. And we have clients in Canada, in US mostly, and also in Japan. So go to these different insurance places, or where the customers are, or where amazing people are that do your craft. And for us, that's user engagement and apps and technology, and learn from that. So in that process, I was also able to meet some great investors, and it slowly snowballed there. So I ended up raising about $3.8 million USD for my seed round. It was really great. I really think we have the right people that are backing us. I never had real issues with my investors, which is also a blessing, because I could take a lot of energy from you. And then now going into a Series A, we are prioritizing institutional people, because I think it's really important to grow the company. So for me, the right fit for our company, for our board, for our vision, and what we want to do is probably something I rank much higher than some of the other more maybe superficial or it looks like a big number, but there may be hidden terms behind it that you don't get to see behind the press release. And I can tell you, for us, we don't have that.
You said a bunch of stuff there. It was all so packed with goodness. I want to pick a few pieces to just highlight a few things that you covered just now. One, you started out talking about fit, and it's just like hiring someone. that fit to the company mission when you're looking for investors is so important, because you can be married to those people for quite a long time, and you're stuck with them, right? Especially like depending on how it's structured, that could be a very long time. And so understanding their history, the types of companies they've invested in, what their exits have looked like, all of those things, doing your homework, it's just as important that they fit you. And it's not all about, oh, am I good enough for them to write me a check? And I think a lot of founders can fall into that trap very easily. You also talked about, so thank you for that nugget of wisdom. Number 2 nugget of wisdom you talked about was learning from others. So, part of the whole mission of InsurTech Canada is not to just be this bubble where we just look inward. It's to be a global player, and it's to learn from other communities, but we need to be at the table. We need a seat at the table so we can be a world-class leader and launch the best companies. But that doesn't mean that all the answers and the resources are just here in Canada. Canada can certainly do a better job of creating an environment that breeds innovation, I feel. But look beyond Toronto. There's lots of markets, like you said, and the Valley is just one of them, where great companies are being launched every day. And some markets are better at us than others. So we have a lot to learn there. So that's uber important. And there's multiple places that you can go to find some of that. The last thing was, and I wonder if this was intentional on your part, or if it just kind of happened. You talked about, now that you're going into Series A, you're focusing more on institutional investors. When you were raising your seed money, did you turn away institutional investors? Were you focused more on angel groups and VCs, or did it just kind of happen that way by circumstance? Like, is this more hindsight talking, would you say, or was it more intentional, if that makes sense?
I think a little bit of both. Okay. The circumstantial, for this seed, we met a bunch of VCs as well. And I think you definitely get you get discounted if you're not, like, Canadian startups gets a little bit discounted.
Sure.
People ask you for Delaware Corp, like that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at it's just another barrier, right? Like, they're like, oh, I have to be in Canadian law. I have to look at Canadian documents. Like, do I need to do that? So that's kind of annoying for institution, where you don't run into that with angels. And some of the institutions, they also, I think some of them just follow you, which is really nice, which is also the people that are going to write you checks at the A, because people invest in lines and not dots. And if it's a marriage, you want to have dated that person for a little bit, right? And I mean, a few years is not that long time in, our space. So it's good to do that. And I would say the people that we are now going to get engaged with are people that we have a little bit of data on, so that we know kind of what we're getting into. So I think that's really nice. In terms of being intentional about whether or not to have institution right now, I think it's really important that you are also begin with the end in mind. For me, I'd like to IPO this with this company. So it was really important to me that we have people that's aligned with us in that. So even our angel investors are completely aligned with that too. So, but I think in terms of institution, not only do they have the aligned vision, they sometimes have resources and, marketing, PR, recruitment, or just a big war chest. They have money to follow on continuously. So those things are something that is, you need to be thoughtful about. If you don't do that at the Series A stage, you may be crippling, or you may just taking some options off the table from what your exit could be. But there's lots of people that have amazing exits through, acquisition. They sell the company, or they do it through something else. Right? Like, there's different ways of exiting. For me, I'm interested in doing an IPO. So this is why, for me, intentionally, it has to be set up to be most successful.
Did you feel at any point in your journey, did you feel any sort of a rush or pressure to raise funds too soon? Because you see a lot of headlines around large checks being written to companies that don't even have like a user base, like they're not even generating recurring revenue, but they've got these massive checks being written.
I say kudos. Yeah, I say kudos to those founders that are doing that. I think it's kudos for them to their ability to tell a story, their ability to convey a vision with conviction. Kudos to them. So I'm happy for them. And I think maybe I have a bit to learn to do storytelling where I'm more like factual about what we do. Like, this is what we've done. And I think people also talked about this statistically, that like men are judged on their potential and women are judged on the results. And I think I definitely fall into the latter category where I'm like, okay, here's the results, right? Let's take a look at results. But I have seen a couple of companies where they go kaput. Right. Yeah. And part of the kaputness was the incentive. They gave away too much of the company too soon. And it's no longer exciting to own like 2% of a company.
It's not your company
like
anymore.
Employee, right? Like that's like, it's not as exciting anymore. So for a founder, right, who's used to that, like true sense of extreme ownership. So there's a little bit of that. And then there's also the, sometimes you get into relationships or marriages with people that you don't really want to spend every day with. And then that also drains energy. And then people don't want to work on stuff anymore. And then you have a earlier than usual, or maybe an unsuccessful, like no exit, right? Like you just shut down the company. So that's, those are the realities. And, if you can raise money, just be thoughtful about what you're giving away. And then I think fit is the most important thing. And I think most founders, especially second-time founders or third-time founders, are like, know that. Like it's they've seen blood, they've done battles, and like they know.
Well, and like it's such a hard thing to know when the right time is, and there's always a little bit of risk and a little bit of a leap of faith and a little bit of timing and luck involved. But like so many investors, when you're in that game, they want to see traction, they want to see LOIs, they want to see all these things. So a lot of times that is a dependency to get funding to begin with. But at the same time, you have to, as a founder, I think, resist the temptation to build the Cadillac from day one and put yourself out there and get the user feedback first. Like, be vulnerable and, have people use your product or service and, use that time that you're still in the incubator, you're still in the womb, so to speak. Because once those checks are written, it's fast and furious, and there's milestones and there's gates and there's KPIs that have to be met, and so I think a lot of founders potentially undervalue those initial months or stages where you're still just really refining your product offer, and just tweaking it and refining it to get it right so that you can get that traction, and then really the funding it was there to accelerate it. So the advice you shared is great. This is part of why we, talk about storytelling. Like, this is why we do this format. This is why, because we want to tell the stories of founders, and we want founders to share with other founders what they learned, right? We don't have to have a big meetup that costs thousands of dollars, or a big conference with lights and free shirts and all this stuff. Those things are great, but
that's
we
fun
can still. Those are fun too, and I'm looking forward to.
I'll see you InsurTech Connect. We're giving away yoga mats and blocks. Please come.
That's right. Oh yeah, 100%. I'll be right there. But this is another way to dialogue and to share information and to get information that's very easy and accessible. So I know a lot of people who are listening to you are going to benefit from hearing your story and your experience. And you can say you've done it, right? You've been successful and you're just getting started. I see big things in your future, Jane. So you've already accomplished so much already. Tell me a little bit about what just a kind of closing thoughts, what do you want Optimity to be known for? When a customer thinks of Optimity, what do you want to kind of pop into their head? What do you want to be known for as a brand?
We want to be the number one brand in our space, and we're starting to get there, right? So we are looking to be the most rewarding health app that are in the palms of everyone we know and love. And that helps people live longer, wealthier, and healthier. So all of those things are really important to us. And we will be the Kleenex or the Uber of our brand category. And I think that's really important because in Canada, one thing that you said triggered what a memory within me when you were talking about, hey, like people want to do this so fast. I think people should read the Shopify story. And I'm from Ottawa, so that's imprinted into my DNA. Yeah. But it's 7 years till they got venture funding, right? And then there's this really great memo that Bessemer had, and it's written by the investor, to his team, talking basically championing for the Shopify team, and it looked at all the product metrics. I think that's really what's strong, and it's such an amazing story too, because it's 3 co-founders. They're still relevant within the business, still very much exerting leadership, and I think that's a really good, solid, build to last type of business. And Optimity is that. Right. So it's a build to last business. We're going to take our time in getting it right. And we're really in the right milieu. I think Canada is actually really great for that. So it's a really good incubation milieu. Yeah. It has very high standard for product and service, which is also why US companies like to buy Canadian products, because it's just polished. Yeah. And then you got to go commercialize worldwide. And this is why BDC loves us too, because it's a Canadian export story. And I do think that in insurance, Canada's very, very well known. Mm-hmm.
Shout out to BDC, shout out to Shopify, some great Canadian stories and institutions there. And Optimity will be, I have no doubt, in the ranks of Shopify someday. So I look forward to a follow-up conversation around that. If people want to find you or find Optimity, learn more about Optimity, what's the best way to find the app? Is it App Store, Android? Where should they go?
Yep. iOS or Android, just type in Optimity and it'll be the first ranked for health rewards. So it should be easy to find. And then if you wanted to follow us anywhere, it's My Optimity. So it's your Optimity, right? My Optimity. It's anywhere on the social handles as well. So come join us. And there's lots of little breadcrumbs of joy all along the way.
Fantastic. And for those attending ITC, you guys are going to have a presence there as well. So
yeah, we're the official health and wellness sponsor. So juice bar everywhere. Come have some fresh squeezed juice, maybe instead of coffee on us. And then we're doing a VIP event on the main day. So Tuesday at 6 a.m., we're doing beachside yoga. And Fantastic. That's where we're giving away yoga mats and blocks, and people really loved it. So we were super, super big 2 years ago, and I'm so glad to be able to meet, people in person again.
That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing you in Vegas. Maybe now we'll have our own meme. I think we should work on that. Get the marketing people involved. It was so great sitting down with you today, Jane. Thank you for making time so late in the day. Really appreciate it. And for telling your story. I really enjoyed the conversation.